Welcome everybody to this week's live. I'm excited to have you here. We're looking at success and some of the secrets to what makes people successful. Um, and one of those is pertaining to why smart people can get stuck. Why smart people get stuck. It sounds odd, but it's a really interesting phenomenon. So, if you're a high achiever, an entrepreneur, an executive, a founder, or even a leader, someone who has built real things in your life through your own thinking, through your own work ethic, your own ability to figure hard problems out, then this live is definitely for you. Okay, so give me 15 minutes because I want to, tell you something that you're not going to like at first. But if you can hear it, it's going to change everything. The exact skill that got you here, that's your ability to outthink, outanalyze, and outfigure it, out the average person, is the exact skill that's keeping you stuck right now. And that decision that you can't make, that direction you can't seem to pick, that hire that you keep going back and forth on, that pivot you should make but can't commit to, that feeling of being at the top of your game and still not knowing what to do next, you are not stuck because you're missing information. You have more information than most people will ever have in their lives. You are stuck because of the information. You're stuck in the analyzing, and no amount of additional thinking is going to unstick you. So, I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you what actually works at your level. So, stick with me because here's the one thing that I want you to accept by the end of this live, just one belief. Because if you accept it, everything else that I say makes obvious sense. So the reason you're stuck at the next level is not that you're stuck and not getting to that next level. It's not because um, that you're not thinking hard enough. It's that you can't stop thinking. And that's a domino, right? You built your career on thinking. You outworked, outsmarted, outmaneuvered everyone around you to get to where you are. Your analytical brain is like a Ferrari, it's what made you. But now you're trying to solve problems that a Ferrari can't drive on. Emotional problems, intuitive problems, big picture visionary problems, people problems, direction problems, the kind of problems where the answer doesn't come from analyzing more data. It comes from a completely different part of your mind that you haven't had to use much in your climb, at least not that you've been aware of. And you're standing on the gas pedal wondering why the car isn't moving. So if you accept that your greatest strength is now the exact thing blocking your next level, then the fix isn't more thinking. It isn't a better strategy. It isn't hiring another consultant. It's upstream of all of that. And I'm going to show you where. So let me tell you why I know this. I've spent 25 plus years inside the heads of the highest performing people on earth. Olympians, world champions, Hall of Famers, CEOs of companies you'd recognize, founders who've built and sold multiple businesses, people at the very top of what they do. And I'll tell you something about those people that's going to surprise you. They are not smarter than the people just below them. Not really. At the top of any field, everybody's smart, everybody's driven, right? Everybody's put in the work. What separates the person who breaks through from the person who plateaus is not more brain power. It's not more effort. It's not another degree or another framework or another book. It's the ability to stop analyzing long enough to hear what they already know. That's it. That's the whole difference. And I learned this the hard way because early in my career, I worked with an executive who was as smart as any human I've ever met. Ivy League, top of his field, brilliant, hardworking, driven, and he had been stuck on the same major life decision for almost 2 years. 2 years, right? And I remember sitting across the room from him and I asked him one question. I said, how many hours have you spent analyzing this? And he got quiet. And then he said, thousands, thousands of hours, and no closer to an answer than the day that he had started. And in that moment, I realized something I've never forgotten. This man's brain was the greatest asset he'd ever had. And it was also the exact reason he couldn't move because he was trying to think his way to an answer that could only come from underneath the thinking. And the more he analyzed, the further he got from the clarity that he actually needed. We did our work together, and in 6 weeks, not 2 years, 6 weeks, the answer was there. Not because I gave him better information. He had every piece of information that a human could actually have, but because I taught him how to stop analyzing long enough for the answer that was already inside him to come to the surface. And that's when everything I do now, was born, because I realized the higher you climb, the less useful analytical thinking becomes on the biggest decisions. And nobody's teaching high performers how to access what actually works at their level. That's the work. That's what I've built. And that's what I want to actually show you a piece of today. So the old vehicle, what you thought was going to get you to where you want to go, I just need to think about this harder, smarter, longer. But the true vehicle is accessing the state where the answer already lives. And here's what almost every high achiever believes. And I understand it because it's what got you here. You believe if I just gather more data, run more scenarios, analyze it from more angles, and consult more experts, read more books, I will finally arrive at the right answer. I'm going to tell you, that's the old vehicle. And it worked for a long time. It worked to build your business. It worked to climb the ladder. It worked to solve the problems that got you to this level. But it stops working at the level you're at now. And here's the neuroscience. Your brain has two very different processing systems. The first is analytical mode. It runs through your prefrontal cortex. It's slow, effortful, linear, great at math, logistics, strategy, spreadsheets. This is the mode you built your career on. The second is the default awareness mode. It runs through a completely different network. It's fast, holistic, subconscious, and it integrates everything you know, your entire life of experience, without you having to consciously think about it. And this is where intuition lives. This is where big picture clarity lives. This is where the answer to what should I actually do next lives. And here's the problem. These two systems are neurologically opposed. When one is running full throttle, the other is suppressed. You can measure this even with the fMRI, which means the harder you analyze a decision, the more you're suppressing the exact part of your brain that would tell you the answer. That's not a mindset problem. That's neurology. And no amount of extra analysis is going to break through it because you're not training a new capability. You're just running the same suppressed mode harder. So the real vehicle at your level is not more analytical thinking. It's the ability to quiet the analytical mode long enough for default awareness to deliver. That's a completely different skill. And it's the skill nobody in your MBA program, your board meetings, your consulting engagements, or your peer groups taught you. But it's the exact skill separating the people who break through from the people who plateau at your level. So then let's look at this belief. This mental training stuff isn't for people like me. I'm the analytical one. So I know exactly what some of you are, that you're thinking that right now, right? Dawn, I'm not the mystical intuitive type. I'm not the trust your gut person. I got here by being logical, by being rigorous. This soft stuff isn't for me. So hear me on this for a moment. You are the person this is most for. The intuitive types that you're picturing, they're not the ones stuck for 2 years on a decision. They're not the ones who can't sleep because they're running scenarios at 3 a.m. They're not the ones who've hit the ceiling on their business, their body, their relationships, or their peace. You are. Because the people who over index on analytical mode hit the exact wall that we're talking about. They cannot solve their biggest problems with the tool that solved every other problem in their life, and they don't have another tool. So I'll tell you something that's going to, really surprise you. The most rigorous, logical, high performing clients I've ever had are the ones who make the fastest breakthroughs in this work. Not the woo-woo people, the engineers, the founders, the executives, the lawyers. So why is that? Because once they see the neuroscience, once they understand that default awareness is a real, measurable, documented neural system and not some spiritual concept, they emerge with the training the same way they engaged with everything else, right? They engage in it. They jump in because it makes sense, rigorously, systematically, all in, and they access something they had no idea was inside them. Not because I gave it to them, because they finally quieted the analytical loop long enough to then find it. That thought you just had, this soft stuff isn't for me, that's the exact analytical loop that I'm talking about. Your brain is protecting the strategy that got you here. It doesn't want to consider that the strategy has like a ceiling, but it does have a ceiling. And you know it does, because if it didn't, you wouldn't be stuck. You're not disqualified from this work because you're analytical. You are actually the exact person that this work is built for. So, one last thing, and this is the sneakiest. You might be thinking something like, well, Dawn, my problem isn't my head. My problem is the economy, or my problem is I can't find good people, or my problem is my competition, or my problem is my industry is changing too fast, or my problem is my board, my investors, my partner. I hear this every week from people at your level. And here's what I'll tell you. Every one of those external problems, I promise you, has an analytical loop underneath it that is either creating it or maintaining it. You can't find good people. There's a hiring pattern that you keep running that's producing the same result. Analyze it more, and you'll pick the next wrong person more analytically. So access a different mode, and you'll suddenly know who's right within 5 minutes of meeting them. The market is bad. Well, every industry has founders quietly crushing it right now. What separates them isn't better information. It's access to intuitive pattern recognition that lets them see the opening that the analytical crowd is missing. How about your board is a problem? Your relationship with your board is a communication pattern that you've built over time. You analyze it more, you'll get more of the same. Shift the pattern underneath, the relationship shifts. So I'm not saying your external circumstances aren't real. They are. What I'm saying is underneath every external pattern is a response pattern that your subconscious is running. And that response pattern is exactly what keeps the external problem in place. So change the pattern underneath, the external reality shifts. Not because the world outside changed, because you changed how you show up to it. And a different you produces different results with the same market, the same team, the same industry. And that's not woo woo. That's how high performance has always worked. So let me pull this together. You now know that the true vehicle, it's not more analytical thinking. It's the ability to access the state where the deeper answers live, the state you're climb has trained you out of. You know it can work for you because it works best for the exact analytical type that you are. And you know your situation isn't the real blocker, the pattern underneath it is. So the question now is not whether to do the work, it's you're still watching. You already know, right? The question is how and how fast. You can figure this out on your own, like some high performers do. It takes them 10, 15, 20 years of trial and error therapists who don't understand ambition, coaches who don't understand neuroscience, and self-help books that don't move the needle. Or you can plug into the exact framework that I've built over 25 years of working with the highest performers on earth and rewire it in a fraction of the time. So here's what that looks like. So when you come inside my high achievement program, my success peak human performance program, this is what you get. You get my 21 lesson framework. It's my exclusive system, the same framework I've used with the Olympians and world champions and Hall of Famers and CEOs. Each lesson is about an hour and a half to 2 hours. It's a deep dive. They're videos that walks you step by step through unwiring the analytical patterns that are keeping you stuck at your current ceiling. That alone, like the framework, is worth more than the entire program price. You get lesson-specific hypnosis audios also on top of the videos. And this is the subconscious rewiring piece. So the lessons teach you the pattern consciously, and the hypnosis audios go underneath and install the new pattern where it actually lives in your subconscious. And this is why the work sticks long-term, because I have you working at it at 2 different levels. Other programs and other people just teach you at the conscious level, and that can fade away. That's, it's like motivational speech. It feels good, it sounds good, but you don't necessarily apply it. So my audios do what nothing else does. Now you also get access to the Mind Mastery Collective. That's my private community where you get direct access to me. You get group sessions and a community of other high performers doing this work right alongside you. Now you also get monthly dialogue with Dawn, my Q&As that are live, that you can bring a specific question, a decision that you're facing, your specific block, your situation, and I can coach you on it right there live. And then because I've been doing this for so long, there's a full archive of years of my past dialogue with Dawn. So those monthly live Q&As are all in an archive that you can access. It's coaching with high achievers through the exact kinds of patterns that we talked about today. So the whole package is built as one system. The lessons teach it, the audios install it, the community holds it, and I coach you through it. So you're not buying a course, you're buying access to the exact framework that's produced elite results at every level of achievement and access to me. So what I'd like for you to do right now is just go to dawngrant.com, look, start here is in the menu, then a drop down, you'll see success, peak human performance. And if it feels right, get in. If you want to talk to somebody first, you can schedule a strategy call. You'll see the link on the site. So hear me on one last thing. The next decision is coming. The next season is coming. The next quarter is coming. And you're going to walk into the same analytical loop you've been running for years. And you're going to walk in with a brain that has finally blocked the answers that you already have. So I know which one, you can either go in having insight, you can go in knowing how to quiet that analytical mind, allow the answers to bubble up and to trust them, or you can go in and stay up until 3 a.m. looping and analyzing over and over again. So it's your choice, because there's always going to be the next thing, the next decision, the next, big move. So I know which one I would choose if I were you, standing where you're standing, knowing what I know right now, I would get in. So go to dawngrant.com, start here, drop down is Success Peak Human Performance, or schedule a strategy call. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Tune in next week. like do lives every single week for you, teach